Longleat is brimming with native wildlife. We've got so many different bird species here on the estate, but one other species stands out more than others, and that is the beaver. They've been here since 2021, so only 3 years, and they've created this incredible wetland ecosystem around us. So when they first arrived here, it was unclear as to how many beavers we had, but over time we established that there was one pair here and one pair down in Half Mile Lake. And since then, the ones on Half Mile Lake haven't really done much in terms of changing their ecosystem, but the ones down here, as you can see around me, they've created all these ponds. Well, this area was just a stream about 1 metre wide, and now it's these huge, lovely ponds which go up to 20 metres wide. So this winter was really wet. Everyone's already experienced it. It was one of the wettest winters on record. So we came down and we checked on the dams, and they were doing pretty well. Beavers are these kind of natural maintenance engineers. So this is the main dam. This is the biggest dam we have. It's probably about 5 foot tall, though it doesn't look like it because the water level is really high at the moment. And you can see there's quite a lot of water pouring over it, but it's still standing up really well. We were worried about them, but they've got it covered, and their dams have actually got bigger since winter, and now the water's dropped. You can really see the interesting structures of the dams, how they put the mud in there and they shore it up with rocks and things like that. So you can tell that these guys do not need our help. They are secure, they are great engineers. After our visit down here in the winter, we decided that there was loads of activity going on and we wanted to capture it a bit more. So we bought some camera traps and put them around the ponds and on the lodges. One of the challenges with camera traps is where to put them. So we spent a lot of time looking around for some active beaver signs. So we looked at the fresh gnawings that we saw on the trees, or where we thought there was some activity on the dams or the lodges, and we put them down. But to start with, it was really difficult. We only got squirrels, we got herons, we got ducks, we got Canadian geese as well, which was an interesting one. But then eventually we managed to find some really fresh signs on the lodge. We put a camera trap there, and lo and behold, we got 1, 2, maybe even more beavers repairing that lodge and inspecting it. So right behind me here is the lodge, the smaller of the lodges, and I'm just looking at the images now, and we've got a beaver adding more material to the top of that lodge. So it looks like kind of fresh mud up there, and we can see from the videos that there's been a beaver piling up more and more mud and little bits of twigs. One of the most exciting things that we've found here is not just the fact we've got beavers on the camera trap, it's that we've got a lactating female. That is really rare to capture. So that proves that they're currently breeding, that we have kits in the lodge, and it's a nice kind of extra detail. We've known that they've been breeding here for the last 3 years. That's why the lodge has been getting bigger and that the whole pond system's been getting bigger. But now just to see that little intimate detail that she's lactating right now is just incredible. It's so exciting. We've known beavers must be breeding down in these woods for the last few years, and we've seen increasing amounts of activity. The lodges have got bigger, so we've assumed they've been breeding. But this year, we saw the lactating female, so it was really tantalising that there must be kits and we might be able to get them on camera. And then, incredibly, really luckily, we got these kits that must have been a few days, maybe even the first day, they were out of their lodge, and they were bumbling around with mum, playing around on the edge right next to that lodge. With the presence of kits, we've seen increasing amount of activity in the daytime. This is probably because those beavers are collecting forage for those little kits to eat. They'll drink milk for the first 2 weeks of their life, and then they'll move on to more forage like the adults do. They kind of have a combination as they're weaned off the milk. They'll still be drinking that milk, but those juveniles and other beavers will be collecting that forage and bringing it into the lodge for those young ones to then eat. It seems in beaver society, the young adults, a few generations above the new kits, will be the ones that look after them mostly. So they'll be the ones that supervise them when they're out of the lodge, then kind of starting to learn to swim. They'll be the ones that are bringing them the food, and the other adults won't have as much to do with them. Obviously the mum will be giving them milk, and they'll be suckling, but that's a whole family affair. So there potentially are 3 or 4 other juveniles looking after those tiny baby kids. The beavers have 2 lodges. They have this main big lodge behind me, and then you have a smaller satellite lodge. And the big lodge here is the one they've had from the get-go. So they have multiple chambers in there, and that's why it kind of comes up out onto the bank, because the chambers get built on top of each other. And then they have this smaller satellite lodge. So we thought that the main lodge was where the female was going to have her kits. So this is what's kind of widely believed. And then the satellite lodge would be where the other adults would be, maybe the male or the juveniles. It seems that here, the female had her kits in the smaller satellite lodge. That's why we saw her inspecting the top, and that's why we see those tiny little kits just out next to the lodge, because they can't really swim that well at this age, so they won't have gone far. The two lodges are about a couple hundred meters away from each other, so it suggests that the female actually gave birth in that smaller satellite lodge rather than the large, big family lodge. So it's incredible that beaver populations are expanding across the UK, but that means that they're going to come into more contact with us. Beavers are a protected species in the UK, so it's an offence to damage their lodges, their dams, and harm the beavers. So if you're out for a walk and you see a beaver dam or a lodge and you think it might be in a place that's going to cause damage, the thing to do is to notify the landowner and let them bring in the people who are licensed to be able to deal with it. Because it might be the fact that actually that landowner knows about it and is encouraging beavers. I feel really privileged. Walking down into this kind of beaver ecosystem feels like you're stepping back in time to this kind of ancient ecosystem. And I just feel so excited every time I come down here, not only to check the camera traps to see if we've got any different beaver footage, but just to see what they're working on, which little pocket of forest they're deciding to have a little chew at today, where they're going to improve their dam and things like that. It's just constantly evolving, and it's really exciting to see them and this whole ecosystem that they're creating. So in 3 years, these beavers have made a massive difference to this whole area. So in 3 more years, I can imagine them increasing the size of this wetland, maybe adding a few more dams upstream to the smaller headwaters. And then beavers generally on the estate will probably expand. We've got space in different areas of the estate for them to create more breeding habitats. So I imagine in the future, we'll have more than 3 breeding territories here, which will be extremely exciting. It will mean we have more biodiversity, more space for wildlife.